Konya, which has been home to different civilizations for centuries, is like an open-air museum where valuable historical and architectural works are exhibited. The reflection of cultural diversity, which has a great contribution to the formation of the city's identity, on the kitchens has enabled the flavors of Seljuk and Mevlevi cuisine to survive until today.
The food culture that started from Konya Çatalhöyük has come to the present day with the methods exhibited by the nomads in different factors. For example, when you look at it with the importance of wheat, lentils, wild peanuts in Çatalhöyük, there is a food culture that is associated with the Mevlevism culture and the Seljuks and dates back to the Ottoman Empire. If we think about how things developed on the Mevlevi and Seljuk side and what we have mastered, something like this emerges. Since the Mevlevi culture is dominated by simplicity, the food is cooked with the help and charity that comes to the dervish lodge, so simplicity is generally dominant. But when you move on to the palace kitchen, there is a cultural framework that goes back to the Ottoman Empire with its rich variety of game meats, richness, dried nuts, dried fruits, and richer absolute diversity. In the Mevlevi culture, the table setting and etiquette of the Devis was very well demonstrated by Ateşbaz Veli. Ateşbaz Veli is the only cook in the world who has a mausoleum, and upon the will of Mevlana, a mausoleum was built with fire-colored stones called Ateşbaz Veli Mausoleum. And it is the tomb of the only cook in the world, and there is a tradition there. For example, a devrish would start and end the meal with salt and thank Allah, but in the first place they would start with sirkensi bin sherbet and continue with salt, and then at the end of the meal they would start with salt again. But when you get to the Seljuk side of things, of course, since the framework of orders and the mechanism of orders is involved, everyone's rank is certain. When you look at the food culture, there is such a difference between the Mevlevi culture and the Seljuk culture. In terms of richness, the palace cuisine is very, very rich. Plus, there are differences that arise due to the combination of the two with Çatalhöyük. For example, one of the biggest advantages of these is that the hunting culture in Çatalhöyük started to come to life about 8,500 years ago in Konya. And when you look at the next 1,300 years, this culture was completely reflected in the Seljuks. In fact, there is such an element in the Seljuks. There were rituals organized for this, hunting and feasting with the hunted food and directing people to more hunting food. For example, he enriched the palace cuisine by smoking products such as wild rabbits, plums in Çatalhöyük, wild figs and so on. When you look at the present day, when you think about how many places you can find this, this culture is practiced in certain places, although not very much. But when you look at the aspect of how you found the records and how you reached them, His Holiness Mevlana already describes it one-to-one in his works. He even says something like this. For example, he describes the sirkensi bin sherbet one-to-one. Who does he describe it to? In one of his discourses to Ateşbaz Veli Hazretleri, he says, for example, at home, vinegar and honey cannot be equal. Sirkensi bin kanchazım, he continues. In another article, he puts forward something like this. For example, he describes the almond apple. Mevlana describes it one-to-one. And although he does not give the recipes one-to-one, he always mentions this in his discourses to Ateşbaz Veli or in his addresses to the Devis. For example, he says, make some oil, some almonds, some flour, make an almond apple for the people, and our lodge will be festive. He continues with such sentences. He loaded forks, he loaded beads, he loaded alaka, and an element that started in Mesopotamia still continues in Konya. But of course, as I said, not in the central areas, but in the villages and cities, this is still going on. There is a culinary culture formed by the combination of different cultures in such a different geography.